Welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm joined by two wonderful gentlemen here, friends of mine, Andrew Jackson, Global Mobility and Relocation Manager at WarnerMedia. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Ben. Thank you for having me, sir.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you for being here. Hosea Bottley, Director of Aaversal Global Relocations. How are you, Hosea?
I'm doing great, Dan. How about yourself?
I am wonderful. Blessed as always. Every time I talk to you, you've been one of those people in my life, Hosea, recently. And, we haven't been friends for very long,
No.
but you're one of those people in my life who I consider a close friend and ally and mentor, and I feel like our conversations are always so deep and meaningful. Yeah. So I appreciate you being on here with me today, Hosea.
Likewise. It's the Dallas Cowboy connection.
Yeah, I'd like to think that has something to do with it. Something to do with it. Andrew, what's your team?
None really. I follow whoever.
Dallas Cowboys.
yeah, Dallas Cowboys. But I follow whoever else is winning.
Yeah. Who's winning? Dallas Cowboys. All right. Sounds good. Well, we got some people checking in here, coming on the show here. We're going to go ahead and honor those people as well. Today, we're going to be talking about diversity in the moving and relocation industry, global mobility industry, but also, in light of the George Floyd incident and the kind of the mind state that we are in as a country and as a world right now, we're going to touch on that as well. I think it's super important right now to talk about how we're feeling and how we're moving forward with that. In fact, let's go ahead and let's put that up on the poll just now, just to kind of get people talking a little bit. So let's go ahead and put that poll question up for everybody. Just go ahead and check in. Let us know where you're at in the world, who you work for, and let's get vulnerable, and let's talk a little bit and just kind of tell us how you're feeling right now, where your headspace is at. And if you got any great suggestions or anything that's been working for you as you've been talking to your friends and coworkers and colleagues and family about these things, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of check in and see where we're at here on LinkedIn and Facebook. We got some folks checking in. Let's go and see some folks here. Looks like Jill's checking in. We got a woohoo, Andrew.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Andrew, you're one of those people that everybody smiles when they talk about you. Have you noticed that?
I appreciate that. And that's always the goal, Ben.
Yeah. I was doing a networking lunch yesterday where we were talking to people that were in transition, and we were talking about what is a personal brand. And I said, personal brand is what people say about you when you're not around.
Absolutely.
That is your personal brand, your reputation, right?
Absolutely.
And people always smile when they talk about you, man.
That's great.
Mena El Safori, hello from Dubai. Mena checking in. It's always nice to see her. Anka, good to see you, Anka. Anka here in Detroit. Anka's originally from Germany, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anka. Over at Borg Warner. Good to see you. Molly Feldman, hello from Jacksonville. Good to see you, Molly. Molly was very vulnerable in sharing on a call recently about her feelings right now, and I respect that and I appreciate that. Tim Quirk, hello, gents from Western New York. Tim, I swear you're going to make that Western New York, that WNY thing a thing, because I know nobody that uses that abbreviation except Tim. But Tim's going to put Western New York on the map. I tell you what. God bless him. All right, let's see here. Chris Louderback. How about them Cowboys? All right. Jose and I actually had an opportunity to go to a Cowboys game last year. Jose, you want to talk about that real quick?
That was awesome. Great stadium. Even though our Cowboys struggled, he finally pulled it out.
We went in Detroit. So when he says great stadium, it wasn't quite Jerry World, but it's all right. It was good.
Yeah.
It's good. It was good. And then, of course, we won, which is always great. So that's cool, too. Let's see who else we got on here. Victoria McCullough. Hey, Victoria. Hello, hey, Ben, Jose, and Andrew.
Hi, Victoria.
Let's see here. Kelly Gurin. Hi, gentlemen. Kelly Gurin checking in. It's going to be 113 here today in Phoenix.
Whew.
That's why I didn't relocate to Phoenix. It's too hot. But enjoy that, Kelly. Enjoy it.
And Andrew, when you say it's too hot, where are you sitting right now?
So I'm in hot Atlanta.
You're in hot Atlanta right now. You're in hot Atlanta. It's too hot for you. That's
Absolutely. But it's not 113 degrees. So, hey.
My heart goes out to the drivers. You know,
Yeah.
Jose, you've run an organization with drivers. I mean, these guys are out there in the heat, running furniture, wearing masks, gloves sometimes. I mean, oof, brutal. Let's see here. We got Jason Rollins checking in here. We're just going to give people a little moment to check in. Hello, all. Jason Rollins checking in from Patriot Nation. Okay. Okay. Let's see how y'all do this year. Let's see what's up this year. See if Jarrett Stidham's the truth. Nice to see you guys. Good to see you too, Jason. Hey, everybody, if you're watching this right now, go ahead and give our guests a round of applause right now. Hit that little green button if you're on LinkedIn. Hit the thumbs up if you're on Facebook. Let everybody know that we are doing this right now. Love you for the topic. Christian Hufalou, also in Atlanta.
Right.
Great guy to connect with as well. Christian was the first person to actually be bold enough to talk about race on the show. And I applaud him for that too, because it's a conversation that a lot of people avoid, you know. And now checking in from Scottsdale. Looking forward to today's conversation. Thanks for taking the time, Jose and Andrew.
Thanks, man.
Dano.
Hi, Dano.
Dano, yep.
The McCoy.
Yep. Audrey D'Angelo checking in for Luxembourg. Diane Stewart, hello. Look forward to the conversation. Francine Dresty checking in from St. Louis and looking forward to today's conversation. Hey, Francine. St. Louis is having a tough time right now, too. Kelly Gurin, haha, will do. We don't have the humidity yet. Christian Hufalou, only non-ATLians call it Hotlanta.
Right. Absolutely.
ATLians, too. A little outcast shout out. Jamie Masser, hi, guys. Cheers from very sunny Mississippi. What's up, Jamie? Lisa Ross, hello from hot San Diego. All right. So really quick, you know, we're going to get started here, but I also there's people out there that don't know y'all. And so I want to give you an opportunity to kind of just tell me a little bit about your relocation story. You know, Andrew, let's start with you. How'd you get into the relocation global mobility business?
Sure. So again, my name is Andrew Jackson, and of course I work with WarnerMedia. Legacy Turner Broadcasting. I'm sure everybody is familiar with Turner Broadcasting and the CNN brand. So we are now WarnerMedia. I actually started in relocation over 20 years ago, where I worked with Prudential Real Estate and Relocation right here in the Metro Atlanta area. Worked with Prudential for like 5 years, and then when the Prudential did the split and went out to Arizona and then also went to DC, of course, I actually did the home tour and went to Phoenix, you know, and it was like the middle of October, went out to Phoenix to do some house hunting and all that stuff. And of course, as soon as I got off the plane, I was like, nope, this is not me.
In October.
In October. I was like,
cancel the DSP, cancel the realtor. I'm out.
It was 110 degrees in October, and I said, "No, thank you. This is not for me." So needless to say, I came back to Atlanta. The company did its separation, and of course, I did my first love. I went back into healthcare. So I have a background in healthcare of over 15 years. So I actually went back and started working in the hospital for the next 5 years. And then an opportunity came available at Turner Broadcasting. And I was like, hey, it's like once you start relocation and get into the industry, it's embedded in your DNA and you just can't walk away from it. So
that's so interesting. You took 5 years off and came back to it.
Yes.
Right. Right. So you got out, but you came back, you know.
Absolutely.
What would you say, is there any connection or similarity between the healthcare industry and the relocation industry?
I'm glad that you asked that, Ben. So with me being in healthcare for 15 years, and then now being in the world of relocation and real estate, both of those organizations or both of those industries is all about helping people. And that's what I enjoy doing. So that's the similarity. It's all about helping others to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, and service, right? Service to others.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think you have a cool story about that too. We're going to touch on as well here in a bit. But Hosea, tell me your story. Tell me your relocation story. How'd you get in?
Well, I started out working for Atlas International, and I'm 26, 27 years into this industry. And after 2 weeks working at Atlas International, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do, So I stayed there like 3 years and wanted to get into the sales side of the industry, and end up going to Mitchell Moving. Stayed there 20 plus years, and decided, here's an opportunity.
So what were you doing at Mitchell?
I did sales for a while. I worked my way up all the way to vice president. And, after my liver transplant in 2012, that ambition of wanting to open my own company, it's like, the new life, I gotta do it. I didn't want to be that guy at 65 going, man, what if I just opened my own company? So my wife, bless her heart, she jumped behind me, and here we are, 3 years into Aaversal Global Relocations, and things are going well.
So give me the timeline on that. When did you have your liver transplant?
2012.
2012, and I appreciate you sharing that with us too. So when you had your liver transplant in 2012, how did that change your life?
A lot, it's just, it was eye-opening, flatline twice, but here I am.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just say I flatlined twice and here I am. Sit up in bed and start working on the computer again. Like, you can't do that to me, man. I got an hour I got to fill here, man. This is the most
what happened
was so far. You can't just flatline twice and come back, man. So tell me you flatlined twice, and then there must have been an epiphany or something, right?
There was a lot, My wife can tell you more about it because she the one had to go through it. But I was, they was trying to put in a tube through your jugular artery.
A stent.
And they punctured the jugular vein, the artery, and everything. And they had to stop everything and bring in another surgeon to repair all this. And, didn't work the first time, flatlined again. And they finally got it right. And
And so you were working at Mitchell at that point. You were the GM, or
I was the GM. I had been the GM about 8 months when that happened.
And then all of a sudden this happened. You got sick, and then you went in, and they were like, you need a liver transplant. And then you did it, and then you got a stent, and then they punctured you twice. You killed you twice, but you wouldn't go away. Coming back. And then and then you got out of that. And did you immediately quit Mitchell, or what was that like?
No. I stayed at Mitchell for a while, but that urge to move forward, it's like a new life, man. It's life. Yeah. I got to do this now. I got to do this, and I just had to make that transition, and when the opportunity came, I jumped on it,
Yeah. You're getting some people over here that are sending some love your way. Molly saying bless you. Jamie saying love that story. Hosea, second chances. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm grateful because Hosea and I met back in 2007 at one of the ERC conferences out in Las Vegas. And and this was 2007. And then of course he had his transplant. So I watched Hosea go from point A to point B up to the transplant, and then actually watched him go through the transplant, and he and his wife, the whole family, and then now to see him today where he is. I mean, the guy has a story. He could actually be the face of transplantation. And then the flip side of that, when I was in healthcare, I worked in kidney transplantation. So that's why I think we shared this bond, because I knew some of what he was dealing with and what he had to go through in that process. And so it's an amazing story. So one of these days you'll have to do a full story of that whole process.
So tell me the story, Hosea. Tell me the story of how you and Andrew met in 2007.
Well, like I said, we were at ERC.
Diversity.
And
or lack thereof, probably.
And we were probably 2, 3 only black guys there. So it's like across the room. Oh, there's a black guy.
There's one.
And
so there's 1,000 people in the conference.
Yes.
Three of you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And we got to talking, and we realized we had so much in common. Our birthdays are what, 4 days apart in July, and you know, we're both Christian men, and it just kept going from there. You know.
Absolutely.
What do you think? I mean, talk about the diversity in relocation. That's one of the key points I wanted to talk about today and illustrate this, because I think if you're not a person of color, I think it's not always apparent to you. You just doesn't stick out to you. You just don't notice it, right?
Right.
When everybody's in the room looks like you, you don't notice it. When nobody in the room looks like you, I think it's probably very conscious.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
What is that like? I mean, help us understand. I mean, just help me understand.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're using the word understand, because that's, I think, is the message that we want to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
As Black men in the US of A today, we just want people to understand and to sort of halfway feel what we're feeling. So back in 2007, being in a conference, and to your point, ERC conference is, I mean, we have thousands and thousands of people at this conference. And then when you register for the conference, you get there on day one and you're walking through the corridors, and it's like, I'm not seeing anybody that looks like me. Now, please know that throughout the industry, of course, I met wonderful, great people within the industry. And when we get there, it's always, hugging and just so happy to see one another, because the majority of our business is done over the phone,
Right.
via the computer, that type of setup. But when you're actually able to get face to face with your colleagues that are out there, it's a great little family reunion for us. But again, when you're not able to see someone that looks like you, it does sort of put that, why are we not here?
Right.
Why are we not attending the conference? And I think that's one of the conversations that sparked Hosea and I's connection. It was like, there's not a lot of us here. So, hey, since we're here, let's talk about relocation, so that's really how the conversation started. But yeah, it's sort of disheartening not to see someone that looks like you at these conferences. And I hope that, and I know that Worldwide ERC is definitely doing some great things, to get more involvement with ERC. But my question, even that's out there, is why are we not attending? And Jose and I've had some conversations about that before. And I think it's because at the level that organizations are allowing individuals to come to the conferences, a lot of us are not in those seats. So the managerial seats, the director, VP, SVP levels, these are the people that you're seeing at that conference. But those who are below the manager level, they are not unable to attend the conferences. So that's why we don't see a lot of us at the conferences.
And Jose, I want you to share your perspective as well, being in the moving industry, right? Because I think this is I mean, what's your experience in the moving industry with what Andrew's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing that applies to the moving side of it. I mean, how many Black sales guys do you see? How many Black guys are in management? How many GMs do you know that are in management? I think I was the only one in the whole Atlas system.
So you go to Atlas.
You go
to the Atlas convention, and how many people of color are at the Atlas convention?
First time I went, I was the only one there. First time I went to the Atlas convention, I was the only one there.
How many people was that? Probably, you think?
I don't know, probably 400 or 500 people.
Yeah.
This was like, but I applaud Greg Hoover, man. I tell you, when he was with Atlas, he always made me feel comfortable at those conferences.
Sure.
Yeah. What? So to answer Andrew's question, on the moving side, right? Because I think we have this enormous division of opportunity. Inequality of opportunity is a phrase I like to use lately that I think helps to illustrate it. And it's you're right. You see a ton of people in the warehouse, right? Yeah. You see maybe a couple in sales, maybe some coordinators,
Yep.
Maybe.
But general managers. So what is that? What is that, Jose? What do you attribute that to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you take a look at, and I had this conversation with the president of and CEO of Atlas Van Lines. This was years ago, because he was asking me, how do we get more Blacks, minorities at that level, you know? And I posed to him somewhat of like what the Rooney Rule is, you know? I mean, every owner of a company knows the quality guys that have that potential to be a GM, you know? But if that guy is just sitting in a corner and no one else in the industry, whether it's United or Atlas or whoever, knows about this guy, how are they going to have an opportunity to interview him, you know? And he liked the idea, but he never presented it to the board. So I guess it never went anywhere, you know?
Mhm.
Well,
So,
and I mean, and this is the other thing too, that like so a van line, right? The president of the van line can say, hey, we want to be more diverse and we want to do this and do that, can roll out policies and programs and blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you have agency owners that decide, they make these decisions.
right.
And if they're not using diverse practices, right?
No.
And they'll say, well, hey, I'm a small business. I only got 15 employees anyway. I mean, how do I possibly have a chief diversity officer? How do I possibly, I'm just a small business trying not to go out of business, right?
Right.
And that's what they'll say. But I mean, I think that we have to start to socialize more best practices, maybe.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that I think Julie Kratz did when she did this book, Lead Like an Ally, and a lot of it was about
I'm reading that right now.
women. Yeah, you are? Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
So far, so good. I mean, I just got started last night, but
Yeah.
I like it so far. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the ally training right now and trying to learn and everything, and there's a lot of like very, very like practical like insights about how to promote people, how to use hiring panels, right? Instead of having one person making decision, typically hiring someone that looks like them.
Exactly.
Having hiring panels. Of course, if you're in a business of 15 people, how do you put a hiring panel together to hire? It's economies of scale. I think it's easier for large organizations potentially than small, but nonetheless, I mean, going to your point though too, Jose. Here you are. You own a moving company. Okay.
Right.
How many Black owners are there of moving companies in the United States?
I know. Besides myself, I know one.
Brian Brooks over at E. Ward, oldest Black.
I know Orlando, Atlanta Peach Movers in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 3. I took our fingers on this hand.
Right.
I can still hold a cup of coffee and count how many Black owners of moving companies.
If anyone else knows anyone else, please chime in.
Yeah. So would you say the reasoning for that is the lack of opportunity, or do you think that people are just afraid of, going out on a ledge, taking a risk to get to that level? Or have they even been given the opportunity to get to that level?
Maybe it's a combination of both, I tell you, my wife was, she was scared, she didn't, leaving that security job at Mitchell and said, I'm going to go open my own company. And I just said, hey, failure is not an option, and let's go for it.
Yep.
So I look at like drivers, right? So there's plenty of African American drivers in the movers, and a lot of movers start through like, hey, I worked on a truck, I owned a truck, and now I own a moving company, and I, work that way, But there's a big jump from A, being an employee, like a helper, to B, jumping into being an owner operator, where you are technically a small business owner. You own your truck, and you make payments on that truck, and you pay the guys, and you pay the fuel and the overhead, and all, et cetera, to then now owning multiple trucks and maybe getting a warehouse. I mean, that's a big jump. It requires access to capital. It requires banking relationships, which we've historically had issues with, right? Mm-hmm. When someone with a black face walks into a bank versus someone with a white face walks into a bank, where's the access to opportunity there? I think we agree, right? Yep. So I mean, you need capital, right? These trucks don't buy themselves, okay?
Right. True.
And so I think you have guys with the potential to be that small business owner, that might grow into that large business owner one day, God willing. But then I think you also have a deficiency in networking opportunities. Right. So when I look around, and I actually learned about this in college, right? It's called social capital. right? And so folks who grow up in historically Black communities don't have access to the same level of social capital, i.e., their neighbors aren't doctors, lawyers, etc., all the time, right?
Sure.
And so therefore they're looking for that role model to say, hey, I want to be like Hosea. Hey, I want to be like Andrew. Hey, I want to be like so-and-so. And who do you point to if you don't know that person who's done it before? Doing something you've never seen done before is a very difficult thing to do.
Absolutely.
And so I think these are important as well. And I guess I would turn around to both of you and say, is there an opportunity to put together programs that mentor or provide that pathway and that mentorship? What are your thoughts on that?
I really do. I think that that's definitely a great stepping stone, and we need more of that. And not just even in the relocation industry, but in any industry that you're going into, there has to be some type of mentorship or, training program to even get people motivated to do it. Because a lot of people, we always talk in church about knowing your purpose. A lot of people don't know what their purpose in life is. And sometimes it takes you to cultivate, make, and mold and shape an individual so that now they were like, you know what? Right. I was thinking about that, inside of me, but I never had anybody to push me to the next level. So yes, that's exactly what we need. And I even applaud WarnerMedia because we have a lot of training tools and resources in place. Train the trainer, or train the manager to know how to be a manager and how to lead others. We have all of those different systems and resources in place for those coordinators who are looking at being a director or a VP or an SVP on down the road. So now how do I set myself up for success is really what it's all about. So yes, indeed, we need something like a mentorship program just to sort of, open the doors, open the opportunities for others to be what they want to be. So absolutely.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. We're getting some great comments here. Let's just take a moment to kind of honor these. Victoria says that's exactly right, Andrew. Vinny Valverde, hi friends, checking in from Portland. Hey Vinny.
Hey Vinny.
Shelly Bishop, Hosea Bottley, I'm so glad you're doing well. #Don't End Life. Her son was also transplanted.
Right, absolutely. Hi Shelly.
As well. So God bless all of you. Let's see, Janet here, going down here, sharing a story. I remember a time my son and I attended an all-Black church service for the first time. I remember my dad preached in an all-Black church one time when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, totally different, totally
yeah.
Totally different. And we were spirit-filled. They were more spirit-filled.
They were really spirit-filled. Hallelujah. Right.
It was great. I understand then how it feels to be a minority amongst people and culture as well. The church leaders had us stand up in the whole congregation saying welcome song. Oh, that's so sweet. We love the experience. Yeah, I mean, I was telling Hosea this before. It's like I'm probably the only white person in a room probably once a year. Probably once a year, I'm the only white person in a room.
Wow.
And I'm comfortable, but I'm very aware of it. And I think I'm a lot more comfortable probably than a lot of other people are because I've just been cultured to it. And I'm familiar with it. But this happens to you every day, I would think. That feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you can walk into a store or a restaurant and you get a look like, why are you here? Like you don't belong, like you shouldn't be there, and it shouldn't happen in society, especially in 2020, but it does, I don't understand the racism. I don't get it. It's very frustrating. I was raised in small town Texas, man. And I don't, it's racism at its finest back in those days. We went to a high school football game, and high school is big down in Texas. And the guy walks up and throws a hot cup of coffee on my mom and says, the end section is over there. Wow. I'm like 8 or 9 years old. Okay. I'm 54 now. I can still hear the scream when that coffee hit my mom,
Mm-hmm.
And you turn and you look at this guy, and all you can see is the violent rage and hatred in his eyes. And I just could not believe this. And here we are, 45 years later.
Wow.
Because I'm thinking, what the hell did we do to deserve that? And I'm still saying that, asking that same question.
Right.
How is that possible?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it.
Wow.
I don't get it.
Absolutely. I mean, Hosea said he was born, raised in a small town in Texas. So I was raised in a very small country town in Alabama. So, and I'm grateful to God, and I can't say I apologize for even saying that, because I don't. I'm grateful to God that I've never had to just blatantly deal with racism. I've never been called the N-word. I've never been spoken to out of the way. So I'm grateful for that. But I know of people who have. I mean, my parents, they grew up during the times of segregation and all of this. My grandparents, hearing the stories of, the way that they had to go through the back door, use a different water fountain, they didn't have access to different stores and all of this in the small town in Alabama. So I've heard the stories, but I'm just grateful that when I came up and when I was old enough to know what was going on, that I didn't firsthand deal with that. So, but to hear the stories, to hear what people are even having to go through, here it is, as Hosea said, in 2020, it's as if we've stepped back, in time, and we're back in the 1940s. And here it is, 2020. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all. Makes no sense to me at all. And why are we here? Why are we here?
Yes. I mean, you thought this was over in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act, right?
Absolutely.
You thought we stopped sicking the German shepherds and the hoses on children, and and then here we are, and there's no justice, and so I can understand the angst and the fury, how infuriating it must be to see a lack of justice. Hosea, people are reaching out here and just sympathizing with you so much right now, listening to your story.
Yes.
It's touching people so much right now. People are with you, and I think that's the other thing. I guess as a white person, I don't have a lot to say other than we are with you, and we stand with you.
Thank you.
And that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely.
I think
you don't necessarily
have to answer, but
we got to fix this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir.
No, I'm just saying, this George Floyd, it's like you're seeing a push. You're seeing a lot of things beginning to happen. You're seeing people want to have this communication. Out of everything that has happened, you can go as far as 10, 20 years ago. What has made people click now? Yeah. What do you think that has says, okay, enough is enough? Is it just seeing that video? Because to me, I couldn't even watch the entire video. My blood pressure just went up through the roof.
Right.
But it's just seeing him, the guy's so comfortable with his hands in his pocket, kneeling on this guy's neck with all his weight on this guy. Yeah. Is that what just sent people to saying, okay, that's enough? We got a serious problem here, and I know there's a lot that needs to be done to fix this, but your platform being right now is a great start, man. I've had my pastor call me. He's white. Mm-hmm. We've had some great conversations. He's setting up Zoom meetings with some of the congregation. I am more than happy to talk to anyone that wants to know more about what we can do,
Absolutely.
Let's all get educated. Let's all believe and trust in each other,
Yeah.
I mean, I still ask the question, what did we do so bad to where the world is wanting us gone? I don't get it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would hear that question. A lot of white folks would hear that question, and they would say, "No, no, we don't want y'all gone. It's all good, whatever." But I think when we as white people fail to act, when blatant injustice is perpetrated in the streets, and people are murdered on camera, and people are murdered in the streets, and no one is held accountable for that.
Absolutely.
And all the times these cops, they get arrested, but they get acquitted. We don't hear about that.
Yeah.
But what happens, I read an article where I went and looked back, and there was something like 400 and something people killed since in the last 10 years by police. And there might've been 2 years of jail time served in the whole thing. And that made my jaw drop, because I think there is a tendency to say these are isolated incidents. But in fact, when we look at it as a whole, we see a pattern. We see a pattern of abuse, and we see a pattern of institutional blindness towards it. Where we protect the police, and police do a hard job, and they do need protection. But at the same time, we can't protect bad actors. Because what happens is we continue to get bad actors. And we can't allow that behavior to fester.
Absolutely.
And
even with that, and I would like to go on script just to say, it's all been about police brutality, everything that's going on in the country. And I just want to throw this out there. We understand not all policemen are bad. We get that wholeheartedly. But whenever you turn on the news and you see this happening, then it happens again and again and again and again. At some point, we as Black men, we have to just stop and say, wait a minute, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I think with this last incident with George Floyd, that's what happened. People were like, wait a minute, this has gone on far too long. This has to stop. Now, do I agree with the looting and with, burning down buildings, tearing up stores and all of this stuff? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's like even the millennials themselves, they feel that this is the only way that you'll hear us. Because now after all this has stopped, after all this has happened, now we start seeing, different ones stepping up and say, yes, something has to be done. Everybody's trying to come together now. But the only way that this came about was when they started looting, when they started tearing up the buildings and doing all of these things. So me, myself, I have a 25-year-old and a 24-year-old Black son. And after this happened with George Floyd, my thought was, well, Lord, definitely bless him and the family. That's your first thought. But then I was like, wait a minute. This guy was 46 years old. That could have been me. Right. My brother, who's right around his age, that could have been my boys, this is madness. And then, just trying to sit and talk with your 24-year-old, about what's going on. And of course, his thing was he was ready to put on his clothes and run downtown and protest with everybody. But I had to stop him and like, wait, son, why are you going down there? You have to have a purpose for what you're getting ready to do. If you're not going down there for the right reason, then I need for you to stay at home. So just to go down there and start throwing water bottles at the police officers, degrading our signs at CNN, if that's what you're going for, then we don't need you down there. I mean, but now you're just causing chaos. Right. You're just, just making things even worse for yourself and others that are around you. So even if we're going to protest and all of this, we have to protest with a purpose. Protest, know why you're going out there to protest in the beginning. And then when you get out there, you have to act reasonable, act like someone with some sense. Now, again, granted, I get why all this is happening. I get it. I totally get it. But there has to be a purpose, and there has to be an organized protest set up, and it has to be coordinated. It just has to be in order for it to work and for people to listen to us. Yeah. It has to be. So
This is good stuff. We have some more comments coming in. This has really touched a chord with people, and I'm so glad that you're on this journey and having this conversation with me right now, because I think so many people needed this outlet, in our community. Vinny Valverde says, "There's no way to understand actions like this, Hosea. This touched deep, buddy. I am sorry that you and your mom experienced that. Most of you know me as the white boy, but my first 3 or 4 years in this country was very tough. As a Latino, I had many confrontations with these kinds of people. We are in this together."
Yeah.
Yeah. Shelly Bishop says, "I'm so sorry to hear that. Truly, you're so brave. You're also brave for discussing this." That's interesting, Shelly. And I'm going to share my perspective on this as a white person talking about this, right? I had this conversation with my friend Elena a couple days ago when I called her up, and I was kind of at my wit's end about this topic. And selfishly, of course, I'm talking about myself, right? When it's not even about me. He's like, "Ben, get out of your feelings. There's other people, right? They're more impacted by this." But I'm like, I'm going to do this show on Thursday, and I know where this is going to go, and I want it to go there because we need to have this conversation. Yeah. But I'm afraid to have this conversation because there's going to be people that see this and watch this and don't want to have this conversation. Yeah. And they don't want their LinkedIn feed to be filled with this kind of conversation. Yeah. And part of me is like, why am I going to go step in this dumpster fire of an issue over here, when I could easily sidestep it and nobody would call me out and say, "Ben, how come you're not saying nothing about this?" I could just blend into the crowd, Yep. I have that privilege, right? I could sidestep this obligation that I feel obliged to do. And I think that we all have to be brave in discussing this. There's people out there in the streets that are protesting. There's people that are having these conversations. There's people that are just taking simple actions, whether it be silent on Tuesdays or to just, show allyship in certain ways and taking a stand. And I guess I would encourage everybody that's watching this right now. You all have an opportunity to make a small difference. And if we collectively make a small difference, we will make a big difference.
We'll make a big difference.
And
strength is in numbers, man.
That's it. I mean, you see it physically in protests. You see it online with social media. I have an influence. You talked about this platform, and thank you, Hosea, for that. But when I started thinking about influence, we are all influencers. Andrew, you're an influence in the global mobility community. Hosea, you're an influence at your company, and as we influence the people that we work with, they influence their families influence their communities influence their towns, and we can be a force for change. Yes. These are just my feelings, my thoughts, and I appreciate
So what needs to change, man?
I think white people need to see the nuance behind the skin. I think sometimes, I'm going to be very honest right now. I think sometimes white people don't see Black people, don't see the personhood, the fathers, the brothers, the sons. They just see, the black skin, whatever that means to them. Yeah. And I heard there is a certain stigma, or I don't know what the word is, demonization, or there's connotation, there's extra meaning that's implied in that, in white consciousness. I mean, they've seen it when they've done these studies with police officers who have to identify threats in an instant. They're shown basically the same type of character, and they have to identify which is the threat. Right. And there's something inherently in the white psyche, there's something inherently more threatening about black skin. And I think that we have to understand that blind spot, and then we have to unpack that blind spot. We have to have conversations, we have to listen, and we have to familiarize ourselves, because I think all too often we self-segregate. Right. You guys talked about how y'all hung out at ERC, right? Because you don't have white faces in the room. Well, the white people do the same thing. Right. We don't see it. We don't point it out. But let's be honest, right? We do the same thing, right? We birds of a feather flock together, right? Yep. Yep. And so we're not always as familiar with the people, with the Andrews families, his kids, and Hosea, your family and your kids, and your service to this country in the Navy, and all the philanthropy, Andrew, that you do that I wanted to get to. And I don't even know, I'm going to make sure we get to it. It's important. But you know what I'm saying? There's nuance, and there's stories, and there's love, and there's passion, and there's friendship. And we have to start understanding one another as people and listening more. Absolutely. That's what I think we need.
Absolutely. I think, we as Black individuals, all we want is for people to care about us, to
Mhm.
love us, to accept us for who we are,
Exactly.
to understand us. I mean, and then when we're trying to voice our opinion about something, just listen to us. That's all. I mean, the thing about it, because I often think about, yes, our skin is darker, so what makes dark skin makes you so fearful about dark skin? Because just because I have darker skin, when you approach me, you're going to find a respectful individual. You're going to find somebody that loves God first, that cares about you, cares about humanity, cares about what's going on in this world. That's all you're going to find. If you cut me, I'm going to bleed red, just like you bleed red,
Right.
So I'm just an individual made up of a fleshly body with blood in my veins and bones in my body. I'm no different than you. So
That's right.
why? That's what I can't understand as a Black man. Why do you see me so differently?
Yeah.
It's a lack of familiarity.
Yeah,
It's we don't break bread enough. We don't sit down and just
absolutely. Absolutely.
and just share our hopes and dreams and like these kinds of conversations.
Yep.
And I think it's because it's easy to stay in our lane, to
Yeah.
stay with our people like us.
Yep.
And so we don't just do the uneasy thing and just go kind of put ourselves out there. And but no, I mean, yes, I mean, you somebody. I'm looking for the comment here. Somebody said Andrew's one of the nicest people I know. You know what I mean? It's true, man. You're just such a kind, warm, and kind person. And Lisa saying yes, yes, and yes. Well said, Andrew. Let's see what Ann says. I didn't even read it. This is a hard conversation, no doubt about it, but it's a necessary conversation that has been muted for far too long. We as white people need to listen, and we need to educate ourselves. While it's incredibly important to say we don't stand for racism, it is not enough. We need to be anti-racism. Yeah. That's right. We need to take an active stand.
Right.
We can't avoid the conversation. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And if somebody over here is getting kicked, I can't just be like, well, it ain't me getting kicked, so I'm just going to la-di-da along my business here,
Absolutely.
Let's see what else she says. We need to be anti-racism. We need to understand the depth of institutional racism. We need to do these things in order to help impact fundamental, necessary, and rightful change.
Yeah.
When I opened up this company, one of the main reasons my wife was and my wife is white, just so everybody know, she thought they're not going to give you an opportunity. They're not going to give you any business. And has it been a tough struggle? Absolutely. But we keep pushing, we keep going. And Ben, you did amazing. I appreciate you, man, more than you ever know. But you've helped me along, and appreciate it. And Andrew, man, what can I say? You just Andrew Jackson. That's what he does. But Ben, when I said I was from small town Texas, and growing up there, all I wanted to do was get the hell out of Texas.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here. Going through race riots in high school, and I'm like, okay, I'm joining the Navy before I even graduated. Join the Navy, there's racism there too. The military, they need to make some changes as well. They try to hide it a little bit, because you are in the military, but it's there as well. So, you can't run from it. It's everywhere you go. But it has to be fixed, whether it's every active police department in the United States, our military, our government, especially corporate America. I mean, these are the pillars that's got to make these changes.
Absolutely.
They got to make these changes, but the most important thing is, like right now we're having this conversation. We can't stop this conversation today. We got to continue moving forward. I don't want too much now and no one is even talking about this anymore. We're going to be right back having this conversation again soon. We got to keep going. It's important. It's extremely important that we keep this moving forward.
I heard a CNN commentator say earlier today, she said, I don't want the next wind to blow and the next story pops up next week and we move away from what's happening today because the day is so important. And if we just, you know, hey, the new big story pops up next week and we forget about what's going on today, we'll be right back in this place again next month and the following month after month after month. So yes, we need to keep the conversations going. And Ben, I like what you said. We don't come together like we need to. We don't fellowship, together. You know, we fellowship all the time in the church within our church body, but to get out and, you know, go into others' communities and feel good about what we're doing, we don't do that anymore. And that's what we need to do. We need to go back to the basics. We all need to go back to the basics.
We all need to go back to the basics.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man, so much here. You guys are great. Let's see here. Janet says, I see hope in younger generation. As a woman in her 60s, I see a change in acceptance, inclusion, etc. in the younger generation. Someone said earlier, racism is taught, family, media, the prowling enemy who loves to stir up trouble. You know, it's interesting because I think there were kids in the 60s marching shoulder to shoulder, right? What happened to those kids? Yeah. You know, where they at? You know, something about us when we get older, we get afraid. I think there's some kids are just like you said about your sons, right? They're just ready to just, hey, let's go downtown. We're going to get it popping. Let's see what happens. Right. And you're like, hey, now watch out now. Let's do this right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but there's something about being a kid where you're just like, I'm down for whatever. And then you have kids and you're like, well, now hold on. It's not about what I did. Like, listen to what I say. Don't listen what I don't do what I do. Right. But I think that there's something about as we get older and we become more afraid of, I think maybe we can become more fragile. Maybe we become more, I don't know what the word is, but I think there's a hardening of the heart that can happen as well when we get older.
Yeah. And we get comfortable. We just, you know, you get in your comfort zone and that's where you want to be. And you said it earlier, if it's not happening in between my four walls of my home, then I'm not concerned about it, which is not the way that we need to think, because just because it's not happening in your house today, trust me, it can be in your house tomorrow. So,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, my youngest son is 3 years old. I'm hoping and pray I don't have to have this conversation with him about what he should do if he gets pulled over by the cop. Yeah. You know, with my wife, if I'm driving by myself and I get pulled over, our thing is I call her and just leave the phone open.
Yeah. And it's sad.
Did you even have to consider that?
Yes.
It's beyond. I was talking to a friend earlier and she was talking about in college, she would drive from Alabama to Texas or something, or Georgia. And her and her friends would do these little road trips and they literally would plot out, she was African American, they literally would plot out where they would go and where they wouldn't go and not driving at night. And then they put chemistry books in the window so the police officer knew they were students. And like that's a whole lot of thing. I mean, when I was in college, it's like hide the bomb. That's all we did. Hide the bomb. The cops come to the window, right? Like, I mean, that's what we were doing. We were just reckless, and we didn't give it, you know. It, and so I can't imagine, you know, putting that level of thought into it. You know, and so, gosh, you know, there's so much good comments here. What am I doing here? Let's see what else. See Hope in Younger Generation. Doing a good job. We need to reach out, connect with people that are different than ourselves and celebrate. You know, is there a way that when we come together and we associate, you know, and I know because it can get awkward and it can get weird and it can feel forced, but is there a way that we can curate these moments and these experiences where we come together and learn about each other, maybe through an association or through some other sort of organization, or how do we do that?
I think, Ben, I mean, to Hosea's point, you've started with what you're doing right here. This is great. This is a start, right? But, you know, we are part of like our local relocation councils. We have these all around the country, right? Those are great places to start. I mean, of course, in our everyday workplaces, we need to have the conversations. We need to have the uncomfortable conversations right there in the workspace. Even at WarnerMedia, there are conversations that are starting now. We've seen, with the protests in Atlanta, what happened right at the CNN building and all of this. So even those things that started, those have sparked new conversations. We were on a call earlier today with our CEO, and even just one of the transparency that he gave us today on that call was that he felt bad that there are actually people in the organization who feel that they're not cared for, and he felt bad about that. But, to feel bad, but now he said, he's feeling bad, but this is what we're going to do to correct that. Because we shouldn't have that within the organization. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't have that anywhere, whether it's church, whether it's home, whether it's in the corporate America or in the van line industry. It just should not be there. But it's going to definitely take communication. And just, I always use the quote, hey, do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. That's all it takes. And that's all we want. That's all we want.
Well, and I think the key there too is in order to get that understanding that people aren't comfortable, you have to first ask the question.
You have to ask the
question. And I don't think that we are necessarily proactively going into our companies and sending out these pulse surveys saying, how accepted do you feel here? How do you feel that you're being treated fairly? Do you feel like we're not doing these proactive pay reviews to make sure that everybody's being paid equally for equal work, whether you're a woman, whether you're a person of color, et cetera. So, there's so much work to be done. And if I'm a CEO of a company, that's scary because I may not like what I hear.
Yeah.
I may get these surveys and say, ooh, people aren't happy. Ugh, well, I don't want to, what if I make it worse? What if I address it at a town hall and I don't say the right thing, or I misstep, or I don't address it properly, and I've add fuel to the fire? But that's just a level of discomfort that we have to be comfortable with, because I think we have to also understand as business people the business case for diversity, which kind of brings us full circle here. There's actually, not only is there a human and moral case for it, but there's also a business case for diversity, and diverse organizations outperform non-diverse organizations. Diverse organizations build better products that cater to a broader set of customers. They understand their customers trust them and support them and buy from them. So from a pure dollars and cents sign, diversity makes sense. So anyway, I'm on my soapbox here.
And on the diversity tip, there's a lot of corporations out there that they have a diversity and inclusion program, but do they really push it? Do they really make it work, or do they just have a program?
Right.
That's a huge difference there. Are you putting in the proper steps and protocols and to try to make this thing work? Are you looking for the best, minority suppliers? And why have the program if you're not going to make it actively benefit you?
Absolutely.
We got people here just chiming in here, and then actually I want to bring this. Let's finish these comments here, and then I want to ask you one last question, Andrew. People are just so appreciative of this conversation, which makes me so happy. I didn't get one person trolling us, which is great. Sometimes I get people trolling me.
Well, the conversation. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go.
No, I understand that some people they're reluctant to start the conversation, because you might get some resistance. But hey, resistance or not, you started the conversation.
Yeah.
So everybody might not come around the first time, but hey, they're talking though. That's the great thing about it,
Well, and I think it's important for white people to be having these conversations too. It's not our story to tell, I think, but it is we do have to give it a platform and give it credence, because what I've seen in the past is, white folks will react to conversations like this, like, oh, why are they playing the race card? Or, oh, why are they always talking about race? Why are they always using that as a crutch? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. These are the common narratives that the white community has used and the white media has used for a long time. And I think it's important for white people who have any sort of a platform, any sort of an influence, to say, I stand with you. I support you. What you're saying is valid. Your story is valid. And that's, I appreciate y'all telling the story. Victoria chimed in here. Ben, I was talking about that today. Those growing up in the 60s became the establishment, for whatever reason, forgot what they marched for. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen the people who marched who aren't marching today. Wes Strubing, the only thing that makes me happier than the fact you all are having this conversation is the fact that I consider all three of you my friends. Proud of you guys. Shout out.
Hello. Hey,
Thanks,
Wes.
Wes.
While the business case may be there, this is simply about doing the right thing, regardless of the business case. Do the right thing. Yeah, for sure. So Andrew, real quick, we talk about what's going on in the world right now, and we're kind of talking about how do we fix it, and of course it's not an easy silver bullet solution here to fixing racism and inequality of opportunity. But tell me about some of the things that you're doing to give back in the world, because I think it's really special.
Sure, thank you. So I serve as the International Missions Ministry Leader at my church. It's the New Life Church in Southwest DeKalb County in Decatur, Georgia. And what we do, of course, at New Life Church and Community Center is that, every day, Monday through Friday, we have staff that's at the church supporting those who are in need. So whether it's giving out food boxes, whether it's clothing individuals, clothing the homeless, feeding the homeless, providing shelter, covering rent expenses, covering utility bills, what have you. There's staff on site at our church Monday through Friday, sometimes Monday through Saturday, because we do a lot of initiatives on Saturdays as well, where we're shuttling in the homeless to the community center and allowing them to take showers, allowing them to get a hot meal, allowing them to go through our clothing pantry and shop for clothing, just as if they were going into a name brand store. They go through, get their cart, and they shop for clothing, and then they exit. And of course, all of this is totally free of charge to the community. And of course, they're able to go through our barber and salon shop, get their haircuts, the ladies can get their hair did, the latest styles and all of that stuff. So this is what we do every single day. Now, from an international perspective, of course, I typically take about 40, 50 people on an international missions excursion. Main focus, of course, is in Liberia, West Africa. We've gone there and we've set up a full-fledged medical clinic there in Liberia, where we see thousands and thousands of patients over an 8-day time span. And we service them just like you would get serviced here in the United States if you walked into a medical clinic. So they go through triage and registration. They tell us what their ailments are. We then let them see pediatric care for the kids. They can see OBGYN, women's health care. They can go through and see our dentist. They can also go to the eye clinic and get service for eyeglasses and all of this. And then, of course, our biggest promoter, of course, is our internal medicine, because everybody has some type of ailment. So they can go through and see our internal medical doctor. And then after they've seen each one of the professions or what have you, they go to the pharmacy and get their prescriptions filled and all of that good stuff. And then they also get food, they get educational supplies, and the list just goes on and on. So again, we not only go and serve internationally, but we, of course, doing what we do internationally is done every single day at our community center at New Life Church in Decatur. So, and I always say, I love my new life. I love my church. I love what we do. And we're all about helping people. And that's what we do.
That's fabulous.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Hosea, do you have anything like that you get involved in?
Right now, I just joined the Rotary Club of Sumner, and we're doing a lot of activities, scholarships for the kids. We're doing food pantry, food drives. I just joined, so there's a lot of things I want to get in, but one of them, the most important things I want to do is scholarships for the kids. I want to get on the education side. So it's been awesome, man. It's been awesome. And I don't know how I want to proceed with this, but I'm working with my pastor now on how we can get more people involved in understanding this racism, and we got to keep the pendulum moving, man. We just got to keep. I can't say it enough. My heart is just about to explode. It's tough.
I get it.
I got a 3-year-old, man. I just, I can't. I don't know, man. I don't want to have this conversation with that kid, Yeah. But I will if I have to,
Absolutely. You do what you have to do, Hosea, and you get past it. You just do what you have to do. Absolutely. Yeah. And please know that you got a village standing around you. So you're not only doing it by yourself. So there's so many people backing you up. So yeah.
That's right. And you got a ton of people here too on here that are supporting. Not all of these comments are even popping up. Right. John Masik says true connections happen through conversations. Thank you for sharing your souls with us here today. You know, Quinn Harker says winning over hearts and minds. Mr. Jackson, well done. You know, there's so much love here, and you guys can go back and see it all. Jose Santana, well said. I mean, people are really feeling what you say, I think, in their souls right now, everybody. And I appreciate y'all being that I don't know, that example maybe, and just being willing to have this conversation. Yeah. So I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in today. I think this is one of the most important conversations we've had on Love and Relo. I think this has been an incredibly impactful week, and this has probably been the highlight of it for me. You know, so thanks for everybody that got involved in the conversation. You know, we had 30-something people on LinkedIn at one time, another dozen or so on Facebook, and I'm sure this is going to get over 1,000 views, which is great to at least to kick off the conversation. But keep having the conversation. And if you are a white person out there, realize that you do have a place in this movement. And I think it's important when we hear Black Lives Matter to understand that white lives have mattered forever. That has never been a question that white lives have mattered. If a white person is shot dead in the street by a police officer, that police officer is held accountable. The problem and thing that we need to solve for at this point is Black lives. And so Black lives do matter, and it's important that you join the movement. It's also important that you try to be an ally and just listen to people and go out of your way to understand and seek to understand. This is a problem that affects us all, regardless of the color of our skin. So please go out and be an ally. Andrew, Hosea, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you for this platform.
Yeah.
Appreciate you too. God bless. See y'all tomorrow, everybody, and have a great one. Take care.
Thank you.